Today I'm going to tell you about a brand new game that I think some of you might really enjoy. If you're a fan of procedural survival crafting games like Valheim, if you like pirate-themed exploration like that of Sea of Thieves, and naval ship combat akin to Assassin's Creed Black Flag, well, let me tell you about Windrose. The game is about to enter early access. I've played it for about 50 hours in total now between various builds, and I've quite enjoyed what I've seen. Now, a thank you to Windrose crew. They are sponsoring today's video. They let me check out the game early, which I was super pumped about because I played a preview build back in July, and then the Steam demo just came out a couple months ago, and I was really impressed with both times that I spent time with the game. Initial impressions, 15 or so hours into the game, this is going to be one to keep an eye on. I think this is quite good, for sure. Yeah, I had played it a bunch in the past, really liked it, and was looking forward to seeing more, and now that time has come. I have seen more, I have played more. Let's dive in and talk about what is Windrose, and is it something that you might enjoy? Now, the first few hours of the game look like this. You begin washing ashore, and in typical survival game fashion, you gather stuff. We are survival crafting. Coconuts we get from the trees. Yeah, shake the tree, pick up the coconuts, and this is used for food to satiate hunger. It's also used in recipes. Dude, that animation is awesome. In this respect, the game does not shy away from its survival inspirations and foundation. You are going to be doing the typical loop of gathering basic resources, crafting some initial stations, making early game armor and weapons, and building a base. Okay, build a bonfire. And this is the range in which we can build. You can see it kind of radiates out there to the perimeter. I like this kind of little alcove here. This is cute. Let's put the bonfire right there. In the process, you will be exploring the starting island, which from what I gather should more or less look the same for every player. And I say more or less because this is a game that uses proc gen or procedural generation for its world building. So the first time you boot up the game, it's actually going to create your very own unique map seed that is distinctly different from any other player's map, kind of similar to how it works in games like Minecraft or Valheim. But your tutorial island should have the same basic points of interest, just maybe located in different spots. The initial quest guides you along the path and introduce you to various systems during which you're going to be exploring and gathering. You'll come across some pirate remains washed ashore with a whole bunch of goodies. You'll find this traveler's camp that has notes pointing to some nearby treasure, and find a couple of ancient ruins full of wildlife or the undead with treasures all about as well. And there's an old copper mine for harvesting the copper and then making your first tier of upgrades. Now, this process also has you setting up your first base. You'll build it from scratch with a fairly in-depth editor, letting you essentially construct whatever kind of seaside shanty you like. Okay, let's build ourselves a little bungalow here. Start with the foundation. Just take some plant fiber. That's probably a good space to start, and then I can just move stuff. This building is really nicely done. It's simple too. It's not too much of a pain in the ass, you know? I can put this together pretty easily. The click and drag feature is really nice. Awesome. Look at this, dude. Look at this. Look at this. I like it. What a game, dude. We're still just in the survival crafting mode. Wait until we get into the sailing and the adventuring. They're really making a game here. You'll place a campfire for cooking food, a workbench for making the basic stuff, storage chest for holding your goodies, and eventually a kiln and furnace for turning the raw ores you found in the mine into usable ingots to make yourself some upgrades. Now, after some time, you're going to get access to your first small sailboat, which lets you venture off to explore other islands in the surrounding area. It's a fairly slow boat, but it gets the job done, and it's at this point you are tasked with searching for your missing crew and building your first real big boat. This is the thing you're going to be taking on the seas with. Now, you're going to find crew members being held captive by rival pirates. These are at various points of interest on the nearby islands. After eliminating the threats that surround them, you rescue them and add them to your crew. And then once you find the shipwrecked large boat, you are tasked with bringing supplies over to repair it. Doesn't take too long. I actually think I completed this within like 5 or 10 minutes. Soon as all of that is done, you are now able to summon your boat anywhere you please at any point. Launch the ship with the crew. There it is. This game is all that Skull and Bones was not. Yeah, I really am astonished that Skull and Bones turned into a ship combat only game when it could have been something like this. But honestly, whatever. We've got this game. All right, crew, you ready? Sail the seas, see what's up. All right, so we've got 4 speeds that we can go. Ship cargo, so we can hold stuff on our ship. Okay, camera view is F. Nice. That's what I wanted, baby. Look at that. jump aboard, grab the helm, and then set off for adventure. And this is where the game's pirate exploration sense of adventure really starts to pick up. Everything prior to this point was pretty much an extended tutorial with a lot of the survival crafting game things, and this took like 5-ish hours in total. Now that you have your big boat, or a ketch as it's called, you are twice as fast as you were in the tiny sailboat, and you're really able to venture out further into the archipelago and begin your fun times of swashbuckling, right? Let's give this a go. Gonna sail down to Blackbeard, and I need to go southwest. Just kind of hitting the bottom of the seafloor a little bit here. Don't worry too much about it. Don't worry, Captain. We'll buff out those scratches. So the overall gameplay loop of the game, again, that's sort of the intro tutorial, but what you're going to be doing basically looks like this. So you start in that first biome, going through the initial process I just described. Once this is done, you're going to have several main and side story quests directing you to islands that are further out in all directions of this archipelago. From here, you're asked to do various things. You'll be asked to eliminate rival pirate factions, take out their gun and trade ships on the seas via naval combat. You'll find buried treasure, head to the mythical island of Tortuga to trade and make new friends, eliminate rival pirate leaders, so on and so on. You're just going out, exploring, gathering resources, doing all this stuff. You're island hopping, checking out new points of interest, completing quests, finding better items, gear, weapons, and recipes. You'll then want to upgrade your stuff to deal more and take less damage. This will let you deal with the deadlier threats that you encounter the further out you get. You keep exploring, hopping from island to island, more exploration, more gathering resources that let you fuel crafting. And while all of this is happening, you are going to be gaining experience and leveling up, from which point you will put stats where you like and pick talents that are going to tailor to whatever your preferred playstyle is. You're also going to want to upgrade your ship to both make it more durable as well as deadly, pushing further to the outer edges of the initial biome, which is called the coastal jungle, encountering larger groups of enemy ships along the way and bigger islands with more points of interest and higher level enemies. And then once you are strong enough, you head to the coastal jungle's pinnacle boss. Defeating him then points you in the direction of the next biome, pushing further out into the archipelago, so on and so on. That's like the core loop, and all the while this is happening, yeah, you're picking up resources and you're crafting stuff, you're making more healing items, you're upgrading your gear, you're doing all of those things. I want to talk a bit more about the various specifics of the different aspects and features of the game. So first, let's go over the world itself and the points of interest. As we've made clear, you are playing on an island archipelago. This is separated into different biomes. So the first biome that you begin in is called the coastal jungle, and this is essentially the first tier. Beyond that, you've got tier 2, the foothills, tier 3, the cursed swamp, and the final fourth tier, which isn't yet in the game at the moment, is called the ashlands. All around the islands, as you explore in these different biomes, you're going to find aggressive wildlife, the factions of enemy pirates, zombies, puzzles to solve. There's a variety of resources to collect, of course. You got different kinds of trees, ores, and plants. As you probably assume, those different tiers are associated with different resources as well as higher difficulty enemies. In fact, each biome comes with its very own discovery log with one slot for every specific resource or item that can be found in that region. Anything you can find and collect in these areas is in that discovery log, and when you first collect one of them, it's actually going to populate in your log, and from there you can highlight the item to get more information about what it's used for as well as where it can be specifically found. So yeah, every island that you come across is going to have some combination of several types of points of interest, and the game has quite a few. You've got the smuggler's cache, this underground location with items and enemies inside. The traveler camps, where you will find some loot as well as a note to nearby treasure buried beneath a tree with a red cloth. There are the jungle caves full of enemies and loot. You got fisherman's huts with loot and clues to a quest location. Pirate remains that wash ashore. You've got those mining caves with the copper, the iron, and so on. There are the ancient ruins with a lot of loot topside. Sometimes these will even have a cellar with more stuff underneath. You've got the pirate camps with bigger areas with a bunch of enemy faction pirates. And then there are the faction-specific locations, like for example, Blackbeard has these outpost ancient ruins, these camps near shipwrecks, as well as big pirate camps. And there are faction bases, both for the foes, but also for your friends. Like you are initially aligned with the rogue buccaneers, and eventually you'll come across their base base, and these bases also have their own unique fast travel locations on top of the ones with the bells that you can manually place down 8 of within the world. And all of those points of interest, those specific like unique designated points of interest, are just specific to the first biome of the 3 that are currently in the game. Every other biome has its own unique variety, variations, and ones that are just completely different from the POIs that you find in the first biome. The game's combat system, it's simple, but I'd say pretty satisfying. It's an action combat system. So you've got basic melee attacks and combos with light and heavy variants. In fact, the game lets you weave between light and heavy, which I think is a really nice and opens up more options. You can be in the middle of a light combo chain and then swap to heavy in the third, and then that will go specifically to the third version of the heavy combo. Again, I really like when games do that. There is blocking, dodging, and parrying, the last 2 of which will have perfect variants. You've got ranged combat. You begin with a one-handed pistol. Eventually, though, you'll grab things like two-handed muskets and blunderbusses, which are heavier hitting different variants. All of the game's weapons, every specific weapon type has its own unique attack pattern, some combination of jabs, slashes, swings, overheads, side swipes, etc. There's also an entire system of different damage types. So the game's got crude damage, which is kind of like blunt, heavy damage. There's also slash damage and piercing damage, and enemies in the game will either be susceptible to or effective against each one of these types. Yeah, it's a fairly basic action combat system, but I think it feels good to engage with. Now let's talk about the sailing. It's a pirate game. It wouldn't be a pirate game without some good old sea stuff happening, right? So yeah, after not too long, once you finish that main 5-ish hour tutorial, you do get your big ship, the Ketch, and this lets you really further traverse the seas, hopping from island to island. The Ketch is twice as fast as your starting sailboat. It also has a cargo hold and spots for various upgrades. Sailing the ship is pretty self-explanatory. You have got 4 forward speeds and 1 reverse speed. There is no tacking in the game based on the wind. Now the sails will adjust depending on the wind direction, but none of this actually affects your speed. You won't be slowed down if you go against the wind, nor will you be sped up if you go with the wind. I think this is something that I would love to see them add in the future, just to add some more engagement to the sailing. Its simplicity aside, it's still enjoyable to sail the seas, but what's even more enjoyable is the ship combat, which is also simple but fun. Once you've got your ship equipped with some cannons and armor, you're going to be good to start engaging in naval combat. This comes in 2 primary forms. First of all, there's the ship-to-ship cannon fights, where you attempt to destroy the opposing ship's hull. This is just all about trying to line up proper angles and maximize your fire time while reducing how often you're struck. And then secondly, there's a boarding system. Once the enemy boat is incapacitated, which you get a little icon notifying you of this, you can go close to it, tie the boats together, and start a conflict where both crews, as well as you, fight it out. You're actually doing a real fight. It's not just a cutscene. Fire! Begin boarding. Get ready to jump. Avassi swabs. Headshot. All right, how do we board? E to climb. There we go. Wow, this music is intense. I suppose it would be. We are boarding an enemy vessel. Enemies killed 3 of 7. I see. Are you verbally calling out commands? Yes. It's working. Voice to text. Messaging the AI. All right. Boarding successful. You're looking at the face of the pirate who defeated Blackbeard. Alternatively, you could just blast them out of the water. I think you get less rewards if you do this, but then you don't have to do the whole boarding thing. It's up to you. And I gotta say, the ship combat feels awesome because you can shoot from the front as well as both sides of your ship. And a lot of times you're gonna be fighting multiple ships at once. So I'll line up with my front cannons, get an initial shot, and then go to the side, port side or starboard side or whatever, and then blast that one, and then flip back around and blast the other, and then one, and everything's on a short cooldown. So once, you know, I start with the front cannons, shoot from the right side cannons, go to the left side cannons, then the front side cannons are off cooldown, shoot them again, and you're going around weaving between ships, and many times one from another. You're just going straight left side, front side, right side, as long as you've got the shot line up, and you just keep cycling between them. It feels really good. I really like the ship combat. There it is. Blackbeard's Ketch. Fire! Reloading. I need to hook it hard. I'm gonna actually lower the speed 1 to turn harder here. Lower the speed 2, there we go. And now full speed ahead again. That should have hit him. Hit him, hit him, hit him. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah! Yeah, Blackbeard, what? Initially, you're just fighting about one ship at a time, but you're going to be coming across big groups of like 3, 4, 5 ships sometimes that you're going to take on, and that's when it gets super hectic and really, really fun. There's also ship healing, so you've got slow out of combat healing that you can engage with, and then in combat healing, which is a little faster, so that's something else you have to consider. And as you push further out in the game into the enemy faction pirate waters, you're going to encounter more ships, different ships. There's all sorts of ship variants. There's like transport ships, there's gun ships, there's these destroyer ships, devourer ships as they're called, which were terrifying the couple times that I've engaged with them, and I'm sure there's many more beyond what I've seen. What's interesting though is that there are also friendly factions of enemy pirates, and they have their own boats. At one point, I was being chased by 5 Blackbeard ships, and some friendly boats appeared and started attacking and pushing them back, which was really cool. Also, while you're out on the seas, keep an eye out for these floating debris. They've got beams of light that depict the rarity of the stuff. It's just you'll pick up woods, provisions, nails, ship healing, and sometimes some valuable things to sell to other NPCs. There's also progression systems in the game, so as you play doing quests and clearing points of interest, you gain experience. This has you leveling up eventually, at which point you gain stat points and talent points where you spend how you please. Stat points are used to raise any of the game's 6 attributes. There are 3 damage attributes, those being strength, agility, and precision. These stats increase the damage of any corresponding weapon. So every weapon in the game fits to one of these 3 categories, and they also have their own ranking from F tier to S tier. Similar to how it works in Souls games, the higher the rank, the more value that the weapon gets of increased bonus damage based on how many points you have in that particular stat. Beyond those 3 damage-related stats, there's also the stats of mastery, which is your crit chance, vitality, which is your health, and endurance, which is your stamina. And then there is the talent tree. This is divided into 4 major categories. The left side is a lot of nodes about increasing your health, your stamina, and just overall defenses. The top side increases one-handed damage, slashing damage, as well as stuff for perfect blocks and dodges. The right side is all about two-handed weapons and crude damage, and then the bottom is mostly about increasing the effectiveness of your ranged weapons and pierce damage. And every single one of these sections has some rather high impact, interesting talents at the very edges of their tree. There's also the gear system, so they've got some traditional survival game stuff with RPG layers as well. Gear will come in different tiers, sets, and rarities, so you can have a green chest piece with different sets offering different bonuses, and then that chest piece can be further enhanced with materials increasing its power level. A couple of sets that I saw and played with included the Flibustier set. Its 2-set bonus made it so that attacks consume 20% less stamina, with the 4-set bonus increasing one-handed weapon damage by 15%. Then I also found the Privateer set. The 2-set bonus had crit chance increased by 10%, and the 4-piece bonus made it so that crit damage increased by 10% for each nearby enemy. Weapons themselves come with their own unique attributes beyond the damage scaling stuff that they have. So for example, I found this rapier, the Rapier of 1,000 Cuts. Its first tier, when it was a blue item, made it so that damage applies bleeding, which stacks up to 5 times. However, if I then upgraded it from blue to purple, it got another attribute. Ascend the rapier? All right. Okay, you know what? Ascended. Oh, it does spread bleed damage. When a target dies, all remaining bleeding attacks transfer to the nearest enemy. Holy moly. Excellent call. Excellent suggestion. 10 out of 10 suggestion. So any of the blue items that you find will have initially one specific special attribute. Upgraded to purple, they get a second one, and that stuff can be pretty cool. There's accessory slots as well. You got slots for a ring and a necklace. This comes with various stat increases or bonus crit, healing, etc. And again, you're going around, you're getting this gear, you're making yourself stronger, you're pumping up that gear, pushing out into the archipelagos, and doing all this stuff. The gameplay loop that I talked about. You're constantly engaging in the survival crafting stuff, picking up resources, crafting things, making things, consumables, items, improving your stuff. You're doing the quest, you're swashbuckling, you're exploring points of interest, you're fighting bosses, you're doing naval combat. It's survival game, pirate adventure game, smashed into one with some inspiration of Valheim in terms of how they do world generation and moving through different biomes. Yeah, man, I've really enjoyed what I've played thus far, and I'm super excited to see more of the game and where it goes from here. As a big fan of the survival genre, it's honestly just a fantastic time right now. There's already so many good survival games to enjoy, and now it looks like we're getting another one to add to the list. I'm a big fan of Windrose, I really am, and yeah, I'm excited to see where the game goes throughout the course of its early access, the more content that it adds, whatever. But the base foundation here, I quite enjoy. If you guys want to learn more and check out the game for yourself, of course, use those links in the description below. Helps us out a bunch. Thanks so much. Thank you as always, of course, as well for watching. I hope you enjoyed the vid, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys.